All right, joining us today on Pirate Radio Live, the PA voice for the Carolina Hurricanes at the Lenovo Center. He is Wade Minter, joining us to talk round two Hurricanes playoff hockey. Wade, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well. It looks like it's going to be stormy out in central and eastern North Carolina, but Canes have advanced to round two, and that's a little ray of sunshine.
Yes, sir. And a nice little break between rounds one and round two. We'll tie a bow on round one going into it. You said you thought the Canes would be able to handle the Devils relatively easily. Does a 5-game series constitute as relatively easy? The Canes didn't make it easy on themselves in the final game, but were able to get the win. So what'd you think of the first round?
First round was really good. I think the prediction of the Canes being able to handle the Devils was true. It's very hard to get a sweep in this league. Nobody did it in the first round, so a 5-game series is pretty dominant as far as a first round series in the modern NHL goes. And yeah, the Canes are one overtime away from that sweep. So Jacob Markstrom of the Devils playing out of his mind in goal. He was really the only reason it was a close series. Otherwise, the Canes pretty much outclassed him start to finish.
No matter the sport, you don't want to fall behind and have to fight back. Having said that, the Canes did it in the finale, but also that game they lost. Wade, they were down 2-0, I believe, right, and
They
came
were.
back, made it 2-2. So that tells you something that no matter the score, the Hurricanes are still in it. It appears.
That's true. Yeah. Especially in this round, pretty much everybody was healthy until Freddie Anderson got run, but you could see the depth top to bottom. Pretty much every one of the teams playing in the right spot. They have options. They took out Jack Roslovic, put in Mark Jankowski for a couple of games. The team kept rolling. And you're going to need that depth because as healthy as they were coming out of that first series, the playoffs are a grind. People are going to get hurt. People are going to be nicked up or knocked out. And you got to have folks there to step up. So I think that's a really encouraging sign for the Canes that they've got that depth here.
Let's talk injuries, Wade, and Freddie Anderson, of course, the number one important player to talk about. But how about as a whole? How did the Canes come out of round one health wise, and what's the latest on Freddie?
I think they came out really healthy. They're, bumps and bruises, but nothing serious, nothing that knocked a key player out, minus the goaltender. As folks who were watching the game saw, Freddie got run by Nico Hischier and looked like a headshot. He ended up going back into the net. Came out that game. That's the one the Canes lost in overtime. And then Pyotr Kochetkov played with Spencer Martin backing him up in game 5. All word out of the organization is that Freddie's healthy. He's practicing, and he's expected to be good to go for round 2, game 1 up in D.C. tomorrow. And I think, the word on the street is if they had needed him to play, he could have, but they were in such a good spot, they felt like they could give him the extra rest.
Wade Minter joining us today. Wade, another person we have on during the playoffs to talk hockey is former Pirate Radio intern Brooks Hill, who is now actually the play-by-play voice of the Binghamton Black Bears. So he is taking his love of hockey and doing a great job in the professional ranks. But Brooks kind of put the call out for Andrei Svechnikov, said it's time for him to show up, and boy did he from a goal-scoring standpoint. How important was that for him and for the whole team, Wade?
Svech has been the player that you thought he would be all series. Dominant. And the numbers back it up. The eye test backs it up. This was Svech's series. He was a force at both ends of the ice. He's scoring goals. He got the hat trick. Really everything you have wanted to see out of him. And he's been a little bit up and down over the years. He's been hurt a couple times. And this was really 5 games where you saw that if Svech is playing his game, he can be that series changer the team's needed for a while.
Wade, looking, outside looking in, I followed the scores. I've watched a little Canes hockey during the regular season, but I admit I am not a diehard every game fan. So from afar, looking at the Capitals this year, it's been all about Alexander Ovechkin and the goal record. So other than Ovi, which we know about, the all-time great, what else do we need to know about this Capitals team? You look at the standings and the points, and they earn home ice advantage with the winning they did this year. So what do we need to know about these Capitals?
they're a very balanced team. They score a lot of goals, and it's not all Ovi continuing to put up 40 goals at his age, which is very hard to do in the league. They're getting scoring from up and down the lineup. Their goaltending has been very solid. They've got a really good defense, and they kind of ran away with the division at the start and never looked back. But NHL playoffs are the kind of thing where teams that do really well in the regular season don't always translate that to postseason success. You saw the President's Trophy winning Winnipeg Jets have to go to double overtime in Game 7 to win their series against St. Louis last night. And the style of play in the postseason is quite a bit different than the regular season. So Washington, as the, I believe, second best team in the NHL, the best team in the Metro, as Ric Flair said, to be the man, you got to beat the man, and they're the man right now until proven otherwise. It should be a good series. It's the first time the teams have met since 2019 when the Canes got back into the playoffs after a decade away, beat Washington in double overtime in Washington in Game 7, which really kickstarted the run of success the team's having. And it should be a good series.
That was such a fun series. Frustrating for the road team there until Game 7 because the home team won every game leading up to that one. But, man, I hope that this series is as good as that one because that one was a lot of fun. And just about anybody that follows any kind of sports knows about Tom Wilson. And Wade, I feel like we always try to put labels on teams and players. In the past, the Canes have been a little finesse in the playoffs, but has that changed, or are they now able to kind of go physical to physical with other teams?
It remains to be seen. They did kind of match the Devils, who are a very physical team, hit for hit. They don't have kind of the stereotypical goon like you would probably think of Tom Wilson, a guy who's out there, making questionable hits pretty much every game. And they are going to have to watch out for that because Washington is a physical team. I think more so than in past runs, you've seen a Canes team this season and this series so far in round one that's also not afraid to throw the body. They're not afraid to go for a hit. They're not afraid to punch back if they've been punched, and they're going to have to do that because, Tom Wilson on down, the Caps are a team that'll really make you pay for every shift you're out there, and if you can't dish it back out, it's going to be hard for you.
Wade Mintzer joining us. Wade, how about what we saw last night? Winnipeg scoring with 1 second left to take it into overtime. They eventually win it in double overtime. And just with no interest on either side, seeing that was unreal. How about just being have you ever been a part of one of those where you see buzzer beaters a lot in other sports? Rarely do you see it in hockey.
Yeah, it's I've seen some late goals. I remember the Eric Stahl game against New Jersey back so many years ago where he scored with just a couple of seconds left in the middle of a furious comeback to the point where fans, myself included, were already leaving the arena when he scored, and the ushers just opened the doors like, go back in, go back in. The Canes ended up winning that game in overtime. It was pretty crazy. The last two games of round one, which was Dallas, Colorado, and then Winnipeg, St. Louis, both of them involved big comebacks late in the game. It's game sevens have been as exciting as you could hope for in round one. And, Winnipeg coming back after looking terrible for most of the game. Connor Hellebuck, who has not had a great round one in spite of being a Vezina candidate and a Hart Trophy candidate, looking like he got it back dialed in and being able to get back to double overtime. That's why you watch the games, and especially if your team's not playing in them and you can just sit back and enjoy the chaos. That's what's super fun.
So Winnipeg alive, Edmonton alive, Toronto alive, 3 out of the 8 teams from Canada. Is this the year the streak is broken and the Stanley Cup is hoisted by a Canadian team?
It very well could be. The math would indicate that with 8 teams in Canada and 30 to 32 teams in the league, depending on when you're looking, that you would have seen a Canadian team win the Cup at some point since 1993, and it hasn't happened. The law of averages is gonna catch up sometime, and you'll see it go back up there. But you've got 3 teams left in the playoffs that absolutely could do it. Toronto's a deep team, top to bottom, very, very much an offensive threat. Winnipeg, President's Trophy winners. Connor Hellebuck, when he's dialed in, one of the best goalies playing. Edmonton with McDavid and Draisaitl, you can't take your eyes off of those guys for a second. So, you got three teams in there, all have a very reasonable claim at being able to play for a Stanley Cup and potentially bring it home.
Wade Minter joining us. Wade, I'm excited personally because I host sports trivia in town on Monday nights and Wednesday nights. So round one didn't have a Monday or Wednesday Canes game. This time, game 4 will be on a Monday, so that gets me fired up. We'll do a little watch party as we play sports trivia next week. But I know that, man, that's Saturday. It's going to be rocking in Raleigh. You'll be on the mic. How about as far as Caniacs? Will you be doing any kind of parties at restaurants, bars here for game 1 or 2 on the road?
Yeah, so for every home game will be at Lenovo Center. Every road game in this round, all 4 of them, we will be at the Caroline Ale House in Cary with our official watch party. You've got me, you've got Jacoby, you've got Big Mike, you got the Canes crew. We have a really good time there. They're going to be setting stuff up on the lawn. We did them for round 1, and it was a lot of fun. We're bringing them back for round 2. And then, the Canes have kind of partner bars all over the state, and hopefully those bars will be doing their own thing as well.
And this is probably not typical of hockey, but, what time do the tailgate lots open for a Saturday hockey game? Because people are going to be going crazy on Saturday, I would imagine. It should be a lot of fun. In fact, I don't know if there's a ice face-off time yet, right?
Yeah, so we've got our times for games 3 and 4. So it's a 6 p.m. face-off on Saturday, and it's a 7 p.m. face-off on Monday. So, if it's a nice day on Saturday, good weather, you're certainly going to see people out there probably 9, 10 in the morning setting up, and by around like 2 in the afternoon, it'll be rolling.
Yes, sir. Man, that's going to be awesome. Wade, will enjoy round 2. Give us some final thoughts, maybe some keys on the Canes side to advance past these Capitals.
Yeah, I think that if the Canes are going to get what they want out of this round, they're going to have to be physical. They can't get pushed off their game by a very physical Washington team. I think Freddie Anderson's going to have to continue to play well as the number 1 goalie. He has played a very good series so far in the playoffs and had a very good season prior to that. You're going to have to need folks like Sebastian Aho, Andrei Svechnikov stepping up, Seth Jarvis, Jackson Blake. And the defense is going to need to play a good defensive game because there's so many offensive weapons on that Capitals team that you can't give them some cheap ones and then hope to get it back.
Wade, always enjoy it, man. Looking forward to hearing you through my television coming up game 3 and 4 in a rowdy Lenovo Center. Thanks for joining us, and we'll do it again down the road, man.
All right, we'll see you. Let's go Canes.